ערב של שושנים, נצא נא אל הבוסתן, מור ושנים ולבונה, לרגלך מפתן. לילה יורד לאט, ורוח שושן נושבה, הווה אלחש לך שיר בלט, זמר של אהבה.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather and having a chance to get outside. A little bit of reopening news. We don't yet know the exact date of reopening for services on Friday night, but we do know that this Monday will be our first in-person class. Unrolling Judaism will meet in both a Zoom and in-person format, so you can take your choice for the time being. We'll be talking about kashrut, the first of two-part series about kashrut, everything you've wanted to know about it, or maybe didn't even know you wanted to know. Saturday classes for the time being will remain online, but we look forward to a transition to a kind of hybrid form there too. Things are starting to open up. Things are starting to get to normal. It's a feeling of wonderful liberation, and I hope that you all are staying healthy, are vaccinated. Keep in mind that at our congregation, all of the things that are in person are for those who are fully vaccinated only. If you are not, because you have a medical reason, please let us know, and we will work something out for you with masking and social distancing to remain in effect for your case or circumstance. So please don't hesitate to call or write to me personally, rabbi@birminghamtemple.com. All right, let's get Shabbat on the road with our lighting of the Shabbat candles.
Baruch haor ba'olam, Baruch haor ba'adam, Baruch haor b'shalom, b'shalom, Baruch haor, Baruch haor, b'Shabbat.
The song Ma Tovu that we'll sing after this next reading is based upon a blessing by a non-Israelite prophet who is forced against his will to praise the community of the Israelites. Ma Tovu Ohalecha Yaakov. How beautiful are your tents, O Jacob. This reading that precedes our version of that song speaks about the need to stand in unity. How beautiful are our tents when we stand together in unity and love in the name of hope and harmony. How fragile are our tents when our fears divide us, when we allow outside winds to blow within. Who but we ourselves can define who we are, what keeps us strong, what keeps us whole? Who but we ourselves can shield us, carrying one another as one against the storm? How fair are our tents when we stand together in the name of unity, in compassion, in strength, for our children and for our children's children. Ken Yehi, may we be so.
Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. לקראת שבת, לכו ונלכה, לכו ונלכה. כי מקור הברכה, מקור הברכה. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל.
A reading adapted from the words of Rabbi Jonah Dov Pesner. What is Shabbat? Ultimately, it can be understood as a call to action. Jewish tradition for many years imagined Shabbat as a foretaste of the world as it might be, while on the other 6 days each week, our ancestors lived in the world as it is, profoundly broken. Shabbat is, of course, a day of rejoicing. Yet in the spirit of our ancestors' wishes that it give us a taste of better possibilities, we must also make it a day to agitate us, to push us, to really see the injustices in our world, to worry for those who cry out in hunger around us, to mourn the loss of our natural resources and to do something about it, and to rage against the forces of oppression and injustice that plague humanity. All of the Shabbat rituals, observances, and celebrations that we have created and in which we have partaken over the centuries were designed to inspire our hopes for a better time, a time of redemption in the spirit of our understanding of Tikkun Olam, a world repaired. Tonight we'll be hearing from Paul Golan. Paul, as many of you very well know, is the executive director of our international movement, the Society for Humanistic Judaism. For nearly 2 decades, Paul has helped Jewish organizations and movements to better understand important key trends affecting North American Jewry, including intermarriage, engagement, disaffiliation, inclusion. Paul's writing has appeared in The Forward, in the New York Jewish Week, the Tablet, and in many, many other places. He's also the co-author of the books 20 Things for Grandparents, of Interfaith Grandchildren to Do and Not Do, to nourish Jewish identity in their grandchildren, and the book How to Raise Jewish Children Even When You're Not Jewish Yourself. Paul has been with the Society for 5 years now, having previously served as Associate Executive Director of Big Tent Judaism / Jewish Outreach, Jewish Outreach Institute, where he helped pioneer and refine effective engagement techniques. I remember in a previous career using many of his suggestions. Paul is the white Ashkenazi half, as he says, of a Jupanese, a Jewish-Japanese multiracial household, and he maintains the Jupanese page on Facebook. But tonight he's going to turn back to his expertise in understanding the trends that face American Jewry and talk to us about the latest survey of our community, the Pew Forum Report of 2020.
Hi, Paul. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks for joining us on what is we're hoping a dwindling number of Friday night YouTube services. Not that we haven't had a lot of fun doing them, but it's time to get back together in person. So to get straight to the topic, just a couple personal notes. I was ordained in 1989. That was just before the National Jewish Demographic Survey came out, the one that freaked everybody out about intermarriage. Turned out to be a whole lot of freaking out about nothing, really. And then another major milestone in my career is when I came here in 2013, and that's the year that the last Pew Forum survey of Jewish Americans came out, and there was a lot to unpack there. I'm not sure how much of it really, in the end, informed us and what we did, but we like to say we're on top of things. And now here we've got a brand new one for 2020, and I was hoping you could give us the lowlights, the highlights, and the takeaways.
Sure. So yes, this is a study that impacts the Jewish community every time it comes out. Once a decade, it kind of sets the agenda, and I think more importantly, it allows Jewish communal organizations to justify the need that they're serving. So it really is important and it is relevant, but it does allow people to kind of set an agenda that they want to set. So I'm going to just share my own biased view of it because it's just my view. But I think for me, the big number that came out of the study was, first of all, they asked a question in a way that I haven't seen asked before, because they specifically said, do you believe in the God of the Bible? They used the phrase the God of the Bible, which I was not in 2013, and I hadn't seen it phrased that way before. And I'm thrilled because since I came on at SHJ 5 years ago almost, I have been saying that most Jews don't believe in the God of the Bible. But now I actually have a number that I can assign to it, which is that only 26% of Jewish adults in America say they believe in the God of the Bible, which is remarkable for our movement. But I think this should be the big number that comes out of the study, and it won't, because much of the organized Jewish community doesn't know what to do with this. But to me, this throws everything up for grabs about why are we doing any of it, and where do Jews get their values? If 3/4 of American Jews don't believe that their values were dictated to them from heaven through Moses onto stone tablets to us, where does their value system come from? And of course, I would argue it's humanism. And I think there's a great opportunity for us to put out there what that means. I think for our movement, there is another question, which is, how do we explain what our unique take on this is? I should point out that, so it's 26% of all Jews who say they believe in the God of the Bible. 22% don't believe in any higher power or spiritual force, so we can just call them atheists. The Pew survey doesn't label them that on the chart, but these are Jews who don't believe in either. 50% believe in some other higher power or spiritual force. But what does that mean? We don't know, because Pew doesn't ask any further questions about that. So I know that within our movement, there's this question of, we know we're not atheistic Judaism, and there's been all kinds of conversation about why Sherwin-Wine didn't use that phrase. He wouldn't call himself atheist. Certainly he drew large crowds everywhere he went as the atheist rabbi, but he himself didn't label himself that way. And many, many people in our movement won't call themselves atheists, and the commonality is humanism. But if you look at, for example, American Humanist Association's website, their slogan, the very first thing you see is good without a God. They are very upfront that humanism is about also non-theism. So I look at the 22% who don't believe in any other higher power or spiritual force, and that represents 1,276,000 American Jews. And we're not reaching a significant percent of those, and we need to be. And one other thing I'll point out that people may have heard a lot of from the Pew survey. They did this in 2013, and they did it again this time, which is to divide Jews between Jews by religion and Jews of no religion. And that did get some play. And the way they did that was basically the screening question was, what is your religion? And people who checked Jewish are Jews by religion, and they're included in the survey automatically. But if someone checks atheist or agnostic or nothing in particular, they then get a second chance on a follow-up question of, do you consider yourself Jewish in any way, culturally, ancestry, and so on? And for the folks who answered that, they are included as Jews of no religion, if they have a Jewish parent, etc. There are some other qualifiers, but that's basically how they split Jews by religion and Jews of no religion. But when, again, you break down this number of belief between Jews by religion and Jews of no religion, on the believe in God of the Bible part, you see a big difference. Jews of no religion, only 7% believe in the God of the Bible. But still, it's 7% of the people who said atheist, agnostic, nothing in particular, who are saying, I still believe in the God of the Bible. 33% of Jews by religion believe in the God of the Bible. But still, 2/3 of Jews by religion don't believe in the God of the Bible. But on the other end, who don't believe in either a God of the Bible or a higher power, 44% of Jews of no religion, compared to only 14% of Jews by religion. But when you look at the actual numbers, because there are far fewer Jews of no religion, it's about even between who's an atheist. Jews by religion has almost 600,000 atheists. And that's remarkable because on all these other measures that Pew goes through, Jews by religion are affiliated, right? They're in the other Jewish denominations. They're involved in Jewish community centers and Jewish federations and so on, but they're answering the question that they don't believe in a God of the Bible or a higher power or spiritual force. 600,000. That should be an easy target for our movement to reach and serve more of.
There's so much here to talk about. I do want to say Sherwin did acknowledge he was an atheist, that he didn't pretend he wasn't. But yeah, you're right. That wasn't the label. It's not the label I wear either. I mean, everybody knows I'm an atheist. I'm an agnostic atheist, but still, you don't get your values from that. If we did, we'd be looking at some very bad people who are also not believing in the supernatural. So you explained to me the sort of the crossover, and it's a lot of complicated numbers. But ultimately, I'm not sure what I would have put if I were answering that Pew question. I may have said a Jew by religion, because the definition of what is Jewish religion is so mushy. I think that's sort of where agnosticism came in. And there he was talking about God. We don't even know what we're talking about. We can two people having a conversation about God, and each is talking about something else. And all those rabbis in Reform and Conservative Judaism, one thing I'm a little jealous of them, and I don't want to go back, but I am a little jealous of them that they still have the old texts to metaphorize into, or pulverize with metaphor, I guess I should say. And it helps them feel authentically Jewish. How do we get the message out that without a Shema, without a Kaddish, without a lot of things that others do, that we're authentically Jewish?
Right. Well, I do think that we can make the case, but I'm interested in starting with the belief, because what happens with the folks who are labeled as Jews of no religion, why do they get there? And you're right, I don't know whether I would have said Jewish or not. I see a survey like that, I know what they're getting at, and I want to be counted as Jewish, and I want to have my opinions counted. On the other hand, I also feel like atheists and humanists are the more marginalized identities in America now. So I don't know. I wasn't part of this poll, and I'm not exactly sure which I would have chosen first. But had I gone with atheist and then Jewish by culture, I think the challenge, what's really happening is a lot of people don't put Jewish on that first screening question because of intermarriage. And that is an additional layer of complexity that this survey gets at to some degree. Before Pew took over studying the Jews, it was only the Jews studying the Jews. And Pew inherited a lot of their same methodology from those studies you mentioned, National Jewish Population Survey, because they still want to be able to look back at those studies and compare numbers. But some of that methodology is simply bad. It desperately wants to show that intermarried Jews are less than in-married Jews. And so what Pew did was, instead of separating the in-married from the intermarried, which is good that they don't do that anymore for the most part, they separate Jews by religion and Jews of no religion. So it's less head-on, but then if you look at who are the Jews of no religion, they're overwhelmingly intermarried. Something like 80% of Jews of no religion who are married are intermarried, and 60% of Jews of no religion have one parent who's not Jewish. So they've kind of relabeled. And why are these folks not checking the Jewish box right off the bat when you and I, openly atheist people, might have? Because they're not confident to say that they're part of Judaism because of this intermarriage, because one of their parents probably, they didn't do the breakdown, but perhaps more whose mother isn't Jewish say that they're not Jewish right off the bat because it's been hammered into their head. That the Orthodox and conservative viewpoint is that they're not Jewish if their mother isn't Jewish. I mean, I think there's a lot of intertwining that hasn't gotten pulled out of this study yet between intermarriage, Jews of no religion. But as far as where I would love to see our movement go is to be more bold about humanism as values, and then we can talk about what the benefits are to still being Jewish. I think that, like I said, Jews by religion, 600,000 of them are still very engaged in being Jewish and are openly atheists. And they need to know that there's a word for them, and it's humanistic Jew. And we can share that value system with them. And you talk about having their traditional text. So I wrote a piece a couple of weeks ago about this issue of less than, right? And so the study measures things that are important to the Jewish community. And so Jews of no religion come off as less than on all of these measures, but they don't measure things that are important to the Jews as people, like universal values, which, by the way, I think most Jews have universalist values, and those are not measured. And if they were, then intermarried people, depending on what questions you ask, would score higher. Not only are all people equal, but I married someone who's not of my background, and because that's how strong I feel about that value. Those don't get picked up in a Pew survey that is studying the particularism of Jewish identity. So for our movement, I feel like we really have the opportunity to go out and say, you don't have to believe in God. Your values come from another source, but the benefits of being Jewish are still celebrating holidays. There's meaning, there's value. We can look at our wisdom tradition through this unique lens and still draw real positive values from it. But look, in that piece, I said, so another thing you'll find in Pew is that Jews are overwhelmingly supportive of gay marriage. And where does that value come from? And I use that as an example in the piece I wrote to say, that's a humanistic value, and it comes despite our religious tradition, not because of our religious tradition. And a lovely Reform rabbi who I know and like very much asked, isn't this also a Jewish value? And she quoted the text about we're all created in God's image. And I said, so first of all, certainly the Orthodox are aware of that text and they don't interpret it that way. But not only that, your ordaining denomination didn't interpret it that way in our lifetimes. So what changed? What actually changed? And we know from the gay rights movement that, it changed because gay and lesbian family members came out, during the AIDS crisis, and that fostered human empathy, which is part of humanistic values, and science backed them up to say, we were born this way, and sexuality is on a spectrum, and all this. I'm old enough to remember the whole lifestyle choices thing that they were pushing in the Reagan administration, like that. You get to choose whether you're gay or straight. I mean, it is science and empathy and all the humanistic values that Jews have incorporated to make them realize that, of course, I'm for LGBTQ equality. And we can still be Jewish, we can still have Jewish values, but what happens in the liberal denominations is backfill. Like, oh, it was here all along. We had to read it into the text. And if that's how you derive meaning, that's great. But I have to say, I'm an advocate for humanism. And there is a clash here. There is two different narratives here. But I'm going to push my belief that this is humanistic values, not Jewish values. I'm still Jewish, but let's be honest about what our religious tradition was on welcoming gay and lesbian people.
I think that's brilliant. And I have to say that increasingly in my own work, as I try to sell the temple to outsiders, to welcome them in, I do lead with the values, and I remind them of the things that we have in common. And I love that notion of backfilling. There is so much more we could talk about, but we're going to stop here because it's a good stopping point. Thank you for everything you're doing with the leadership, as usual.
Sure.
We will be consulting you regularly now as we're beginning a new marketing campaign and a new sort of a new launch in a new era of everything we've learned from this Pew Forum study and the things that we're learning from American Jews in the deep into the 21st century now. Thanks so much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And of course, we concluded that segment with Efo Ori, the song of our movement, appropriate to what we learned about tonight. And I want to once again thank Paul Golan for taking the time to teach us about what's happening, especially as it's relevant to humanistic Judaism in our American Jewish community. One of the most radical ideas of humanism is that every human being should be seen as having dignity and equal worth simply by the virtue of their humanity. Once we understand that we are all part of the same species and the same long story, it is possible to feel a connection with all people, everywhere. We can imagine ourselves in their position and know what happens to them could happen to us. Every human being deserves the right to dignity and to our concern. This feeling of empathy is strengthened by officially recognizing and guaranteeing human rights. History has shown us that this is the best way to create peace, more peaceful societies for everyone. In this community where we find strength and common purpose, we turn our minds and hearts toward all those who need our love and support those who are ill, those who suffer pain of the body or spirit, those who are lonely, and those who have been wronged. Tonight we extend our well wishes to these members of our community and to their loved ones, to Joe Gaden, Julie Eliason, Karen Tremper-Harris, and Rabbi Peter Schweitzer. May all who suffer know that they are not alone. May they be healed quickly. May they experience a complete recovery, a refuah shlema, the renewal of their bodies and the renewal of their spirits. Our thoughts turn to those who are no longer with us, our loved ones whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every people and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Tonight, we recall the yahrzeits of these members of our community and their loved ones, of Benjamin Dennenberg, Harry Fraser, Jerome Logan, Helen Lubeck, Henna Master, Sam Meza, Eugene Scala, and Leslie Scher. Yehi Zichram Livracha. May the memories of these beloved people provide some measure of comfort to those who face life in their absence. That is our service for tonight. We may have just a few of a few of these left. I've enjoyed them very much, but I am certainly looking forward, as soon as our reopening committee determines it's safe to do so, and I anticipate that will be soon, to being together in person. And it is in that spirit that I selected our closing song, a beautiful take on Hine Matov, Umanayim, how beautiful and how good it is when people come together living as one people. Alrighty, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you soon.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. Behold how good it is when people dwell together, living as one people, hand in hand. What keeps us safe and strong is that we have each other, one human family across the land. Hine ma tov ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד.